Hello everyone, my name is Tapati Shaha and today I am going to teach you about nutrients in animals. Okay, so you can see here I have put the topic nutrient in animals. So I am going to teach you about this topic. Okay, so we all human beings as well as animals have to depend on others for our food and nutrient as well. Coming to the word nutrient, what does it actually means? So you can here see I have written a definition of nutrient here. Substance that provides nourishment essential for the maintenance of life and for growth. Means nutrient is that substance that provides us nourishment to our body and also helps in maintaining our body as well. Okay, since the topic is nutrients in animals, so we are going to mainly focus on animal nutrients. Okay, animal nutrients or human nutrients mainly. Here I have noted a point that human nutrients includes, means which are the things that are included in human nutrient. Number one, you can see nutrient requirement, mode of intake of food, its utilization by the body. Okay, nutrient requirement means we humans what kind of nutrient we personally require by our body. Mode of intake of food means by which mode we are intaking our food, and its utilization by the body means how the nutrient which we are taking is utilized by our body. Okay, clear everybody? Okay then. Now coming to the word human nutrient, another word that came into our mind which is digestion. Okay, from the word human nutrient, the word that coming into our mind directly is digestion. Okay, now see, complex substance to simpler products. Now I have put here a general equation of digestion, means conversion of complex substance to simpler substance. Now let me take an example. See, the food which we are intaking, mainly the components of the food such as carbohydrate is a very complex substance. So it is not generally absorbed by our body for the mechanism on our body. Okay, so in order to absorb by our body, we need to convert the complex substance such as carbohydrates that are present in our food into simpler products, which is also known as protein molecules, small protein molecules. Okay, so digestion can also be defined in another way, is the conversion of complex substance into simpler products is known as digestion. Okay, and then we can say why digestion is required. Another question may arise. So in order to absorb food that we are intaking by our body, that process of digestion is required. Okay, now you can see here the points: buccal cavity, food pipe and else and a whole digestive tract. You can see, so I am going to explain it to you now. So the buccal cavity. Now the parts here: the buccal cavity, food pipe, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, anus as well. These are the 6 things or 6 body organs that helps in the part of digestion. Okay, or this also known as digestive tract or alimentary canal. So these 6 things all jointly known as digestive tract or alimentary canal. You can see here the whole body things. Here is the buccal cavity, food pipe, stomach, pancreas, large intestine, anus, small intestine, liver, gallbladder. Here the figure is human alimentary canal. Okay, so digestion generally starts in the buccal cavity, which is also known as ingestion. The digestion starting in the buccal cavity, which is also known as ingestion. Now, ingestion means intaking of food. Intaking of food. Okay. Now, digestion is generally ended in the anus, which is also known as egestion. Where the digestion ended, it is known as egestion, which also means as excretion. Okay? Now, what happens in the buccal cavity once we take our food? Okay, this has become quite clumsy, so let me rub it all to make it more visible. So, what happens in buccal cavity? Now, you can see here buccal cavity is accompanied with mouth as well as the teeth and the salivary gland. Okay. Now, we have 32 teeth, and each pair of teeth functions differently in order of crushing the food. So, once we intake our food, the food particles is crushed into smaller pieces so that it is easily swallowed by ourselves. Okay. Now, what enhances the swallowation process? Now, see, you can see here the salivary gland. What is the function of the salivary gland? It secretes a hormone known as saliva, which enhances the swallowation process. And the tongue helps in the mixture of food particles and saliva so that it can be easily swallowed by us. Okay. Now, once the food is swallowed, it generally enters the food pipe. The next step is the food pipe. So, what happens in the food pipe? Once we swallow the food pipe contains a movement known as the peristaltic movement, and which generally pushes the food downwards inside the stomach. Okay? Food pipe, what is the function of food pipe in the process of digestion? It generally pushes the food inside the stomach. Okay. Now, the main things begins in stomach. The chemical process. Okay. Now, see, stomach contains a inner lining. Inner lining? The inner lining of stomach contains three things. Or number one is mucus, number two is HCl, and number three is digestive juice. So the inner lining of stomach, you can see here, the inner lining of stomach contains three things. These three things. Number one, mucus. Number two, HCl. Number three, digestive juice. Now, mucus doesn't play a direct role in the process of digestion. It generally acts as a protective layer of the stomach so that the HCl cannot act directly into the layer of the stomach. Now, what is HCl? HCl is hydrochloric acid. Now you can see acid is a very harsh substance. So once it coming into the contact with the lining of the stomach, it will generally cause a burn. So in order to prevent the burn, mucus is present as a protective layer. Okay. Now with the activation of HCl, the digestive juice come into action. HCl generally activates the digestive juice. Now, digestive juice, what does the function of digestive juice? It converts the carbohydrate molecules that are present in our food components into small protein molecules. Am I clear? Okay then. So, after the part stomach, here comes the part small intestine. Okay. Now, what happens in small intestine, or how the process of digestion occurs in small intestine. So generally what happens in small intestine is that the digested food which enters from the stomach to the small intestines get absorbed here. As you can see, it is highly coiled, but its actual length is 7.5 meter. Isn't it huge? Now the question comes that how, since it is very narrow and absorption needs a lot of space, so how does the absorption occurs? So let me tell you that small intestine, before, let me tell you what absorption actually is. So here I have put a definition of the absorption. It is a process by which the products of digestion are absorbed by the blood. Means absorption is the process by which the products of digestion are absorbed by the blood. Means the products which are formed after the digestion are generally absorbed by the blood. Now who facilitates the absorption of the blood? It's the villi. Now what is villi? Villis are the finger-like outgrowths found in the small intestine. Now villi, what does villi does is it is actually creates a space for the absorption process. Now villi generally looks like this figure. Villi generally looks like this, which includes a vellus wall, lacteal capillaries, and it is as you can see, it is a finger-like shape. So it is a finger-like shaped outgrowths that are present in the small intestine, and it generally absorb the digested products into the blood directly, and the blood circulates all over the body and helps to maintain the mechanisms. Okay. Now, after the small intestine comes the large intestine. The food from the large intestine, the digested food basically gets absorbed by the blood, but you know that the whole thing which we are eating is not completely digested by our body. There remains some undigested food as well. So the undigested products then went to the large intestine. Since it is large intestine, but not much as large as the small intestine. The large intestine measures in 1.5 meter long. Okay. Now what happens in the large intestine is that the undigested food once enter the large intestine, here the remaining water and salts present in the undigested part get absorbed and sent to the blood. Okay. Now after the undigested food, from where the necessary water and the salt are soaked out, the remaining then went to the rectum, and it remains as semi-solid phases and ejected time to time through the anus. So starting from the buccal cavity we intaking our food and ending in the anus, the whole process of digestions are taking place. Okay, so now let me summarize it in a small form. So what happens basically in digestion is that once we intake our food from the buccal cavity into the buccal cavity, the salivary gland activates itself and the tongue mixes the food particles with the saliva so that it is easily swallowed. After it is swallowed, it generally enters the food pipe. Okay, now food pipe contains a special movement which is known as peristaltic movement, which generally pushes inward the food to the stomach. Stomach contains HCl and digestive juices, which breaks the carbohydrate molecules into the small protein molecules, and then the food went to the large intestine, the digested food, and then what happens, it is generally the digested products are absorbed by the blood with the help of a finger-like outgrowth called villi. Okay, now what happens after the products are absorbed, it is generally went to the large intestine, where the undigested products are generally soaked out of water and salts present, because our body needs excess salts and waters as well. So the excess water and salt is soaked out from the undigested part. Okay, now then the wholly, when the everything is soaked out, the undigested part then went to the rectum and remained as semi-solid feces, and then ejected time to time through the anus. So this is the whole process of digestion. If I rub this, so you can get a clear vision of this diagram. Once you get through this diagram, by visualizing everything or imagining everything that are happening inside our body, this will make you clear how digestion occurs. Okay, though I'm not giving you a detailed description about the digestion, how it is chemically occurred, but up to class 7 standard, I think this much is required. Okay, so today for this much. Thank you very much.